Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, March 12th, and we are beyond thrilled to welcome Paul Mooring to our live stream 10 Minute Trainer Network. Paul, you're a regular here on 10 Minute Trainer Network, and we are so excited to have you live and in person. And I got to tell you, I'm pumped, right? The topic that you put together from failure to rocket fuel, I think that NASA geek in me is like, just lift off. Let's go, right? But I think that yeah, I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. But Paul, it's great to have you here.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I love getting on these calls with you guys. You got a great network.
Well, we appreciate that, and Speed, you're here as well. And Paul, yeah, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And Brian and I are both kind of, we've seen Apollo 13 about 800 times. As a matter of fact, I think we have it pretty much memorized. And that is what always comes to mind on that one is at one point in time, they literally tore the cover off the flight plan to actually rebuild a filter that saved their lives in terms of oxygen. And really, that's taking what you have available to you, that's taking misery and turning it into something positive. And really, that is exactly what you're looking at today, is those growth opportunities that we can turn just by re-examining what looks like could be failure is a real opportunity out there. So I agree, echo with Brian. I'm excited, I'm pumped. And you know what? Why don't we just turn it over and let you get started?
Yeah, I was going to say, and here we are, we're talking about this, and it's March 12th, right? And it's like, isn't this a discussion that we should be having towards the back half of the year? But listen, it's a lot that's out there right now, right? It's March 12th. We hit January, hit February, thinking a lot of us were ready to hit that reset button. We didn't have the chance to hit that reset button, and we've had ups, we've had downs. It's just a roller coaster ride. So I think that even though it's March 12th, it's okay to say, you know what? Some things that I really had planned for the year, they didn't work out, and they seem like a failure. So, Paul, again, I agree with Speed. We're going to turn it over to you, but this is a message that I know personally that I'm excited to hear you talk about because it's something that I struggle with on a daily and weekly basis. So, anyway, with that being said, we'll shut up and we'll let you go, Paul.
Sounds good. Sounds good. No, great introduction. Thank you very much. And I am not jinxed yet today. And I say that because every time I've come on the network, something has happened. A camera fell over, a light knocked over. And this time it got me up at 3 in the morning just to recheck my stuff. So I was sending Jennifer some emails at about 4, just making sure everything was aligned, and looks like we're up and running. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but I want to unpack the subtitle of this visit today, because so many times when I'm speaking about something, it's either from my own experience or the experience of one of my coaching clients that I've worked with, or one of the businesses that I'm doing coaching with. And in this case, it's a little of both. And you'll see what I mean by that. But to unpack this a little bit, the subtitle is 10 Keys to Mastering Failure That Will Change Your Life. When I wrote that the first time, I thought that sounds a little like an overpromise. It sounds like it's too good to be true. But then I stopped to think about all the different times that I've seen this come up, and it is absolutely rock solid, on the line. And you will, if you follow some of these things, you will have the opportunity to make some major transformations in your life. You'll be surprised at how quickly you can see that happen as well. So I'm going to share my screen and get the PowerPoint going here. It's not an extensive PowerPoint with 30 pages of stuff, so don't worry about that. But we are going to get some good hits in here. Let me get started, making sure we got this up. All right, that's beautiful. So I want to talk about a few people just to have in the back of your head as examples. These are people that exemplify those 10 keys to mastering failure. J.K. Rowling tried a dozen times to get her book anywhere to be published, and they all said no. And obviously Harry Potter was a pretty successful book series. If she would have stopped at any time before those 12, it would have been, who's J.K., right? That's really what it comes down to. You got to stay the course. You got to stick in there long enough for these things to go, and you have to be able to fuel yourself to keep after it. Another one, Thomas Edison. This one is probably one of my favorites. He tried to develop the light bulb some 2,700 times. I can imagine his wife having a tea party over at the house, and the ladies gather around the table and they're chatting, and one of them says, "Is Thomas still downstairs working on that light bulb?" "Yes, yes, he is." "Oh, bless your heart, honey. I'm so sorry to hear that." You can't talk him out of it. How many times has it been? But realistically, 2,700 times he's got to have used that fuel to make that happen. It would be impossible otherwise to stay on track. Another one, Oprah Winfrey. She was a news reporter. She was actually did the news. She was the anchor on a news station, and she got fired. Surprise, surprise. That seemed to turn out in her favor long term. And then the last one, Sylvester Stallone, was one of my favorite stories. And part of the reason that I brought this up is I was developing that story, and all of a sudden I saw the step outside of that story to mean even more. Here's what I mean by that. The Rocky Balboa Rocky 1 movie is one of my favorite movies ever. I love that movie. When it came out, I was in high school wrestling, and we would use that song as a pump up. And it was just that kind of a story that got you engaged. Well, when I started digging in a little bit, I found out that Sylvester Stallone was not far off from Rocky Balboa when he started out. He had lived in a bus station for a few nights. He also took all of his wife's jewelry and pawned it to make rent. He went in to try out for a movie or to show up for an audition. When he showed up for the audition, they weren't really interested in him, but he had written this manuscript, or whatever you call it when you write a movie. He had written it a couple of days before and said to the people that were interviewing him, "Hey, how would you like to take a look at this?" And it stuck. The reason why I mentioned that is such a favorite story of mine is because when I made the transition into coaching, I felt the stress that you go through when you're making a big life change like that. And I thought to myself, gosh, don't let me end up on a park bench or at a bus station. But you feel that stress, and you've got to find ways to get up and go. Otherwise, again, Sylvester Stallone would be Sylvester who? You'd never heard of the guy. If he would have stopped, or if he wouldn't have asked, "Would you like to take a look at this?" So all of those things come into play. Now, I always like to look at the sports side of things, because the way that I see it in my own mind is that sports are like life, just in fast motion. And you can see an entire lifespan of somebody just going through a basketball game, the ups and downs, the challenges, the trials, the tribulations. And then you find that there's some things in common that we'll hit on here. First one I always put up there is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan wrote a book about his success as a basketball player. Some people think that he's the best player of all time. There's barely an argument that he's in the top 3, but he was an unbelievable basketball player. But he got cut from his high school team as a junior. So what would he have done if that failure didn't fuel him? It would be Michael who? Michael Jackson, okay, but not Michael Jordan. We wouldn't have even known who he was. Here's another guy that you may not know about. Shaquille O'Neal got cut from his sophomore and freshman basketball teams. Shaquille O'Neal couldn't make it, but he stayed after it. Pretty amazing. One thing you might do once, I get such a kick out of doing it, and I did it again last night just for fun. Go online, pick your sport, go online and watch the Hall of Fame induction speeches that these players will give. So I like watching the basketball ones. I'm a basketball fan. And last night I watched Allen Iverson give his induction speech. And it's amazing. There's patterns in all of these players and all of these successful people And that pattern oftentimes had a kick to the curb moment where somebody told them, you can't do this, or I'm much better than you in this position. And it triggered something in them that became their rocket fuel. I remember thinking about tennis. I remember Andre Agassi before a US Open. I believe it was a US Open or a Wimbledon. It was later on in his career, but he was still a threat, still a great player. When he got up in the morning, it took him about 2 hours to stretch enough where he could even touch his toes. But then it drove him to get out there on the court and get it done. So you can watch this a lot of times in sports and athletics. There's people outside of it. It's just, again, sports are more in a fast motion time set, so you can see them come more quickly. Tiger Woods is a funny one to me because when you look at Tiger Woods, he's won more tournaments than anybody bar one. So he's up there at about 82 wins. He's won just about as many majors. I don't have his stats memorized, whether it's 13 or 14. He won a surprise one just a few years ago. But I stumbled on an interview that I'd never seen before. That interview was with Curtis Strange. Curtis Strange was a 2-time in a row US Open winner, golfer. I love Curtis Strange because he had the same similar ball flight that I liked. He faded the ball a little bit. So I loved watching him play. I'd never seen this interview. He sat down with Tiger Woods. Tiger had just played his first round in his first professional tournament. And Curtis asked him a question. He said, Tiger, how did it feel out there today? And how do you think you'll do? What do you think would make you happy coming out of this tournament? And Tiger said, well, I'd like to be able to make some more putts. I'd like to be able to shoot lower, and I'd like to be in a position to win. And Curtis Strange laughed at him. He chuckled at him, thinking to himself, yeah, right. And that's about what he said. He said, you know what, Tiger, it sounds a little cocky, a little brass for you to say that you're going to come out and win a tournament. And Tiger said, you know what? Every tournament that I show up to, I need to mentally have a chance to win. So that's just the way that I do it. And the last thing Curtis Strange said on that video was, you'll see. And boy, did he see over the years. But it's amazing. Again, I had never seen that video. I'm just, when Tiger started, 6 months later, he started winning. So I was not aware of a time when somebody put that into the mix. And when you think about it, I'm sure that was part of the fuel that drove him to what he did, what he experienced for success. So keep those things in mind. And if you need a little pump up, go check some of those things out. It's a really neat thing to look at. But why? I always dig for the whys. I talked about the transformational difference that this can make for you. But why? Why is it that I would like to pursue something like this? Why is it that I would like to make this happen in my life? The why is because there's several times that I can guarantee you that you've maybe given up on something before you should have. Maybe you took that first no and you settled on it and just walked away. The why is that if you can figure out how to do this, it's going to have an amazing impact on your career, on your life, on your relationships, whatever it is that you want to focus on. One of the things that reminded me of this process was that I had a manager once that was a great mentor to me. And that manager was really good at turning things to a positive, to take the best look at things instead of the worst. Because there's a lot of bad things that can happen. But you can look at an instance and say, there's a way to look at that from a rose-colored glasses, so to speak, or maybe you're looking at the best possible scenario. You can't be off the chart when you do this, but it helps you readjust to that next situation. What I'm getting at is that I learned how to control my own attitude from this mentor. And after I learned how to do that, my mind would race to find the best possible outcome. I have to be careful sometimes to let the mind just do its thing and not open my mouth, because it might be that something kind of bad happened and you're spinning it to a positive too quickly. It's a disease, but it's a really positive disease that affects you in a positive way. Have I said positive enough? I hope so. But that's what it'll do to you. The why in this process is going to actually give you fuel for your fire. And you'll see when we start going through these things what you'll be able to pick up out of it. So that's the why. And then if you don't try, if you just don't try, what do you have to lose? Well, if you don't try, then you're going to be right where you're at now. So why not try something that can make a difference without a ton of investment? Just some mental changes that you can put into play that'll help you make this change and make some things happen. I've got a story right now today that just came over the weekend, and I'm going to make fun of this guy. He is actually my nephew, and he is down in Tucson this 4 days, 5 days. He's a baseball player at a college up there in Minnesota. He came down here with his team, just like the pros come down to play our spring training games. He came down here. I got to go down, watch the game, watch him perform. He almost had a great catch in the outfield, made some easy catches as well, but a diving catch that he didn't quite get. He got a single his first time up, got hit in the knee the second time, got a walk or something along those lines, and then he got out the last time he was up. They were up 6-2 in the game, and they ended up losing 9-7 or something like that. I could hear his coach through the fence giving them a talk up after the game. And that talk up was, okay, guys, you know what? We played down a little bit. We can beat these guys. This is the kind of team that we've got to beat. We got to focus in. We got to make less errors, and we got to be able to step up and push those runners. And when Henry came off the field to say hello to his family, he was chirping about those same things. And he said, yeah, we just played down. We gotta step up. We got to do a better job. We'll get around to it. You know, we'll hit the ball better, field better. We can do this. So he had that positive spin on a loss immediately. Coach first, him second. Well, I found out when he played yesterday, he hit a home run in one of the games and a grand slam in another one of the games. So if he would have come out of that last game with his chin on his chest, feeling like he lost, feeling, oh, woe is me, there's no way he would have been able to crank 2 home runs in the next couple of games. So these are things that are happening out there on a regular basis. If you open your eyes, you can find them. Then it's just getting your mind to click in and help you get there. So the first one that I want to touch on here is being resilient. And by being resilient, I just wanted to put in the definition: able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions. Resilience is a word that you cannot have enough of. Resilience is Rocky Balboa when he was in the movie, right? He took so many punches, he would have been probably dead by the time that fight was over. Obviously, for cinema, we loved it. But he kept getting up. He kept getting up. Even when his trainer said, stay down, he kept getting up. Resilience is necessary. You're going to take resistance. You're going to get resistance for the way that you're going about what you're going about. So you've got to really click in a resilient sort of attitude. Now, as I go through some of these bullet points and I start talking about them, you should be able to find 3 or 4 of these 10, 3 or 4 of these that you can kind of plug in and work on right away. If that feels too rich, grab 2 and start plugging in and working on them right away. You'll see as these start to develop, you'll start to develop that energy. And something goes bad, something goes wrong, you'll recover very quickly. One of the things that I really loved hearing about Tiger Woods as a golfer, when he had a bad hole, he was the master of the bounce back statistic. That bounce back statistic would say, if you had a bogey, that means it's a 1 over par. You consider that a bad hole as a professional golfer. Me, not so bad. But if you get a bogey and followed up with a birdie or an eagle, that's the bounce back stat. So some players get that bogey and now they're out of sync and they get 2 or 3 bogeys in a row because they're upset. The way that Tiger Woods did it is he would allow himself to be upset until he got to the next tee box. So in the walk that it took him to get off of that green to that next tee box, it had to be gone. Forget it, gone. Now, I'm sure he had somebody that helped him create that in his head, but that's what we've got to do. That's what Henry was doing. After losing that game, he was brushing it off, and he brushed it off in such a way that he could go out and slug it out of the park. That's what Tiger Woods was the master at, is doing that. So that resilient piece is really, really, really helpful. The next one is, come on, is having a long-term clear vision. Most people do not have a clear vision. I'm not really sure why. I think most of it, if I were a psychiatrist or psychologist, most of it would probably wind up in the area of fear of failure, where people don't want to put a big vision out there because then what if they don't make it and they fail and they chip another failure away? I have conversations with clients about that all the time, whether it be themselves or some of their team members, when they're trying to go through the goal process with their team members. And they get frustrated because when they're going through that goal process and the people are just not biting into it, it's not going to have the impact that they'd like to see it have. So you've got to take this long-term clear vision and cement it in some place. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to change, but you've got to have it dialed in. Person after person after person that you hear about, that you're asking them, they've run a successful life, a successful business, whatever it might be, you ask them, and a lot of times you'll hear about having that clear vision. And then when you go to people that aren't doing as well, then that vision is just not really out there. I'll introduce some things to different teams that I work with, and then I'll make predictions based on those introductions. I've got a really, really short book that I wrote. It's easy to read in about an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes. What I find with people is that if they can't get through that book in a month, I mean, seriously, an hour read, and you can't get through it in a month, you're going to have a problem getting anything accomplished. You've got to be able to lock in to these short visions so that you can also make that long vision a reality. So if you've got vision issues, then I would suggest getting started on building that long-term vision by starting with some short-term vision, short-term goals to get you going. The next one that I've got on here is learning from the setbacks. So you're going to have strikeouts. You're going to go down swinging. You might go down looking. You're going to have failures. So our goal isn't to fail so that we can continue to produce rocket fuel. We're hoping to fix things so that we can save the fuel and not use it all up. So if you're in a position where you've had a setback, you gotta stop and take a real quick inventory and ask yourself, all right, what got us here? How did we end up here? That's the first question you want to ask. The next one is, what could you have done differently given those circumstances? And then the last one is, what lessons did you learn? You want to learn from your failures, from your mistakes, and try not to let them happen again. Nothing says that you're going to be guaranteed not to have it happen. But if you can help it, help it. There's a mistake that you're making, try to learn from it so that you can go forward and have that as a lesson learned. This next one is near and dear to my heart, feeling the pain. When you have a loss, we fear loss more than we get excited about gain. Most of us, anyways, the whole carrot versus the stick type of a situation. We fear the loss more than we get excited about the gain. So when I say feel the pain, it reminds me of watching a pro football game, and specifically the championship. It's the Super Bowl. And the team that lost by missing a field goal with 10 seconds to go. So that is how they finished the game. They could have tied it or gone ahead with that field goal, and they lost. Some of those players, from a mindset standpoint, on the sidelines, on the losing team, will sit out there and watch that winning team celebrate that win, listening to the crowd cheer for that winning team celebrating that win. And that player is taking that in so that they can use that pain going forward. It's not like they really want to be out there hearing that, but it's driving them to be able to handle that pain. So really take it in. If it's a painful loss for you, take it in, because again, it's going to help you develop more fuel. Failure can fuel your determination. And if you can channel your frustration into activity, then the next day you're back at it. Some of these athletes, when they win or they lose the championship, they might be back practicing a couple days later. They're right back after it. And that's something that we can all learn from as well. So feel the pain might be something that you can think about. That would be something right for you to build into your repertoire. This is a big one, choosing the right people. I told you a little bit about that mentor of mine that helped me shift my thinking to mostly positive most of the time, instead of kind of positive some of the time. This is a huge factor, and it sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge, because choosing the right people means that you're going to surround yourself with people with like positive attitudes, like conquering some of the challenges that they face in their life. They want to be around other folks that give them positive support, that give them encouragement, and that have a push. They'll give you a push to keep you active in chasing your dreams and your goals. So sometimes when you are starting to surround yourself with these people, there's people that you leave out of the puzzle. And I would encourage you to kind of analyze why you left that person out of the puzzle, and maybe find a way to let them know, because maybe you'll drag them along. If it's an attitude issue, it might be one of those situations where you can say, hey, listen, I'm going to bring you to this meeting. We do this once a month. It's a mastermind. We just get together and talk. But one thing that you got to be aware of is that nobody in that room is going to get on a negative spree and complain and moan. Nobody. So if you can't help but not do that, then you probably are not going to feel comfortable there. If you're comfortable with that, come on, I'd love to have you join me. Okay? But there might be some times when these people have to get shifted into a less notable place in your life. Let's just put it that way. But choose the right people. Now, also, you have to think about this. Choosing the right people, if you own or manage a business, or you're a leader in a business, or a leader on a team, getting the right people is vitally important. You can't shortcut the process of getting the right people in place, because if you do, you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay. And you see a smile on my face because I've been in that situation early on when I was leading a team as a leader, and I was in charge of hiring. There was a couple of hires that I made that were quick hires. By quick hire, I mean, I was really busy. I should have been sticking with my program, which is interview 5 to 7 people. Even if you love the first one that comes in, still go through 5 to 7 people before you make a choice on a hire. And in this particular situation, I was in a hurry. I was pretty sure this person was going to work out. They were a first interview, first person, and I hired them. And boy, was that a mistake. Sometimes it takes you a little bit to realize that mistake, but then when you do, you realize the damage that you've caused for yourself. So whether it be in sports or in business, picking those right team members is important, and having people with those encouraging factors is a big help long run. Now, all of these things, if you've written down everything that I've talked about so far, you're officially overwhelmed. You should be anyways, because to really plug these in and run with them is like, wow, okay, I can do that. So again, don't be afraid if you only want to run with 3 or 4 of these at the beginning, but just don't wait 6 months to move on to the next ones. This slide, growth mindset, is key. That word mindset is a big deal. When you think about mindset, it's how you approach a situation. Attitude's part of it. Resilience is part of it. That mindset helps you flip things to a positive and helps you be realistic about the success and failures that you're going to face going forward. So that growth mindset is the key. You've always got to be thinking about maybe the Kaizen principle, where you're going to try to get better a little bit every day, because that's what can make the difference. But you've got to really put your arms around that, and you've got to run with it, because it's easy to just say, we're doing good enough. The challenge is when you're trying to continuously improve yourself and always get yourself better. The next one up is, it just carries over to so many different things that makes me smile, but adjust and try again. If at first you don't succeed, right? We've all heard that saying. Make adjustments, try again. Don't give up, make adjustments and try again. Tiger who? If he would have let Curtis Strange frustrate him, by the way, in that first tournament that he played in, he finished about 29th or so. Nothing super impressive. Had a good round, 4 or 5 under par. But again, 3 to 6 months later is when he won his first tournament. He could have left that tournament. There would probably be other people like Curtis Strange out there that said, oh, this guy thinks he's going to come on tour and win. We'll see how that goes. They might not have had their arms around him, cheering him along, right? We wouldn't know who Tiger was if he got that frustrated, if he wasn't willing to make the adjustments that he had to make, and most importantly, trying again. Apply what you've learned, try again, go out, do it, succeed. Now, this next one is sometimes difficult. You've got to find some people that can help you know exactly what's going on. If we're staying on golf, having a golf coach is really important, because you can just be off by that much and your ball is in somebody's backyard. So a golf coach helps keep you from knocking out windows on the golf course. It also helps you hit your pars and your birdies and beat your buddies on the golf course. All of those things come along with it. But that coach, when you get out of sync or you're trying to get down to a lower level on your handicap, that coach makes a big difference. So failure equals feedback. And sometimes you need to get that person that can give you the feedback that you need so that you can make corrections that you can't necessarily see yourself. And again, this isn't just in sports, obviously. If you're a leader and you're giving messages, you're presenting material, and you're not moving your team, you might ask for some help. You might ask for somebody that can help you in that area. Again, it might be a coach, it might be a speaking coach, but don't be afraid to reach out and get help, because that feedback is what's going to make things turn around. What worked, what didn't, what changes are needed. These are all things that you can plug in pretty quickly. I keep watching the clock to make sure I'm not going long here. The next one is really important and really kind of the most fun part, right? You win, you've got to celebrate those wins. Don't just jump back on the horse the next day, demanding that everybody has to get back at it, and forget about the fact that they just finished a deadline, made the numbers, broke the record, did all that stuff. Don't jump on the microphone and say, basically, what have you done for me lately? Have a celebration, celebrate that time. That's what makes people realize, hey, putting that extra effort in when nobody's watching, that can make a difference. Or doing those extra reps as a player, that's going to make a difference. So celebrate those wins. And don't forget, you've got to, by celebrating these wins, everybody feels good. So it keeps those people motivated, keeps them doing what they need to do for you to hit the success and be successful to the level that you're shooting for. And then thankful attitude promotes a positive environment. When you're saying thank you from the top, or you're saying thank you from any position in there, thanking your fellow players, your fellow workers, your teammates, the people that support you, it promotes a positive environment when you're using and being thankful towards others in the mix. The next one is really kind of getting to the bottom line here. And by bottom line, I mean that you've got to wholeheartedly accept some things here. Wholeheartedly, without any deviation, you've got to accept the fact that no great success was ever achieved without failure. No great success was ever achieved without failure. Now, 3 or 4 people have said this to some extent over the years. I remember looking up Winston Churchill's quote that was similar. But you really have to stop and think about this for a minute, because you've got to accept that wholeheartedly, that no great success was ever achieved without failure. Here's why I'm spending so much time on this. Fear of failure grabs us all around the neck. Imposter syndrome grabs us all around the neck. These things will make you want to quit. They'll make you want to throw in the towel. But those failures are the things that carve success. Some people put it as blunt as, without failure, there is no success, period. So go out and fail. You talk about in modern day, right? You got Elon Musk is blowing rockets off, and it's some pretty amazing stuff. But I think 2 rockets that have gone up this year have not made it. They've crashed and burned in the air. So even somebody that has been as successful as him putting rockets up in the air, there's no guarantees. And you got to get back on the horse and do it again. One of the things that back on the horse comment that I always remember is that I started pole vaulting in high school in 9th grade. And I learned from a senior who had done really well. I think he had gotten 2nd in state. And so when I learned how to pole vault from him, pole vaulting is a dangerous sport. And when that pole bends and snaps back to straight, it can shoot you in all different directions. So oftentimes you'll run into the standard that holds the bar up. You'll fall off the back of the mat on the grass. You'll twist an ankle when you're trying to land. Every once in a while, you'll snap a pole. But one of the pieces of advice that this pole vaulter gave me, Esping was his last name now that I think about it. The piece of advice that he gave me is, he said, get back on the horse. And I said, we're out here on the track. I don't see a horse around here. No, you just had a little crash. Get on that pole and do another rep. And I said, why? I'm just trying to get myself together. Don't do that. Get out there and take another rep. Because if you sit on those failures and you don't go get another one, you'll be just stuck in the mud. That's why this statement is so important. You've got to force yourself to get those failures, because that's what's going to ultimately drive you to success. And that success is what you're looking for in whichever goal sequence that you're trying to shoot for. If you get a chance, go out and read the book that I wrote. It's called Get Squared, and it helps you set goals in 4 different quadrants of your life so that you can stay balanced amongst all these things, because there's a lot of demands on your time, and you've got to fit these things in where you can, But if you can be more efficient and you're running on rocket fuel, you can get there a lot more quickly. So I want to summarize some of these things. First of all, start today. Start today. I have a lot of people that want to wait until next month or next quarter or next Monday, or let's do it on Sunday, whatever it is. Start today. Start today, especially with something like this where you're developing a set of skills. Start today. Don't wait. There's no reason to wait except for you procrastinating. So start today. Communicate with your team. Let them know what's going on. Bring them along for the ride. I can tell you that the 80-20 rule exists in so many different things, you'll just be amazed to watch it over and over and over again. The 80-20 rule in this situation means that you're going to go and tell your team you're all fired up about it, but the team is going to be about an 80-20 pickup. On that first go round, 20% of them will jump on the bandwagon with you and 80% won't. So you've got to be patient, but continue to go after those folks and get them on the team. Spend time answering the question why, because sometimes when you're trying to convince team members, they don't know what's in it for them. They don't know the impact that it's going to have on them long term. Get clear on your long-term vision and share it with the team. Really get clear on that. Take some time to dig down into that. Even if you'd like, involve some of your key team members to develop that vision, because the more people that have a clear vision in your operation, the more successful it's going to be, and the more successful you'll be as well. Commit to put in the time and effort consistently. It's so easy to start some program on January 2nd and so easy to be done with it on about January 14th. And what I mean by that, it's so easy to be done with it because everybody around you has done the same thing. They start on January 2nd, they're done by January 14th. So you don't feel bad about yourself. Commit to put in the time and effort consistently. That long-term vision doesn't let the foot off the gas on January 14th. It keeps you driving all the way to the target. And then transform your organization. This can kind of be difficult at times, but you're going to get this attitude and this mindset plugged into your team, and somebody's not going to come along. You're going to try to get every single one of them to come along, but somebody may not. I'm just preparing you. Somebody may not. And if they don't come along and they find something else to do, or eventually you have to take them out of your organization, they're going to find a place that they'll be good at. And that place will be more apt to accept the attitude or the lack of that drive or incentive that you want to put them all together in the same place on the same page. With all of those things in place, that last tab, and then I'll open it up to questions. That last tab says, now we're cooking with rocket fuel. And that's really what it's all about. If you get these things plugged in, you'll be amazed at how simple they are, but how much of a big difference they can make. The reason why you haven't really dug into this before is that it's mostly free. When you're doing mindset work, it's mostly free unless you need a coach to help you get started or get you off on the right foot. Okay, so the last slide that I'll just punch up here is just some information about me. I am a business coach, started in 2020 with my own business coaching. It's been a great ride. I've met a whole bunch of wonderful people, learned a ton, and gotten to watch some pretty good success as well. So if you want to reach out, you obviously can. I know that Brian or Speed was going to get back on. That's my last slide, and I see that I'm right on the 9:45 time. So 11:45 for you. I'm pretty happy about that as well.
Excellent. Excellent.
Paul, great stuff. I was going to chime in because I'm sitting here scribbling down notes as fast as possible. At some point in time, and you're like, if you've been taking notes on all this, your head's spinning, and that's it, right? But there was so much valuable information, and I think that the idea of where do you start, how do you unpack it, and just understanding that we all do have those setbacks, and just taking in the small bite-sized chunks and understand the growth mentality. And then I think you said it best that, hey, to get anywhere, we've all had the failure, right? I mean, you look back at everything we've ever done, right? Every partner, every client, every sale has pretty much started with the word no, or leave me alone, or you're driving me crazy, and yet, you know, yet we look at that now and it's like, oh my gosh, that person said no to me. Oh, I can't believe it, right? Um, Everybody said no to us, and so it's a little failure, but taking those to build up. So anyway, to me, I felt like this one spoke to me, and I knew it would just reading the topic. So I appreciate it. So sorry, Speed, I jumped out all over you on that one.
No, hey, Paul, I wanted to say the same thing. First of all, thank you so much for this. It's great to hear. A couple things. I mean, same routine. I wrote down a ton of stuff, but a couple that really stood out that I put stars all over next to it. Channel your frustration and activity, I think, is a massive one. Adjust and try again, a massive one. And you mentioned the blowing up rocket ships, two in a 3 week period, but they actually came up with kind of a cool way to put it. They call it a rapid unscheduled disassembly. you know, and it's just a great way to put it. But basically, I said if we don't blow it up, we can't fix it. And another big tech term that's out there right now is fail fast. That they know in order for you to move forward, you got to have that one disassemble quickly. So this is great stuff.
Yeah, good. I have to chirp again. Don't bury yourself. Get started on a few because you'll be amazed at what just a few will do, and you'll start watching your attitude and the people around you will notice it as well. That's fun.
Hey, Paul, I had a boss years ago. He used to refer to it as the 24-hour pout period. That
Yes.
if something blows up in your face, and something will, he goes, all right, go home. You got 12 hours there, but when you come back, I'm giving you another 12 hours and then get over it and get back at it. And 24-hour pout period is something I've kind of lived by my entire life. I love that.
Yeah, that's good. That reminds me when I started in sales and I was making cold phone calls in the insurance industry, the phrase was something along the lines, some will, some won't. So what? Who's next, right?
Yep.
Pick up the phone.
Yeah,
Make that next call.
how tough is that in terms of, in the insurance building or insurance business? I mean, it's tough enough. I had a guy that I had hired into broadcasting out of the insurance business. And I said, how do you do that hour by hour? Just rejection after rejection. I mean, what kind of a mindset do you have to get yourself into?
You've got to just make some adjustments, and here again, sports will come into the mix.
Okay.
Like 90% of the things that I think about are sports related. But if you're a baseball player and you're doing well as a hitter, you could have a 300 and we're going to call it 33%. You could have a 333 batting average. That means you're hitting 1 out of every 3, means you're failing 2 out of 3 every time you come up. Not everybody has a 333 batting average, right? So you could be a 210, 220, 225 means 1 out of 4. So it's just getting used to the numbers and then just putting your arms around them. One of the things that I always found is that for some reason there would be hot and cold nights when you're making cold calls.
Mm-hmm.
One night you say to yourself, I'm going to make X amount of calls, and if I don't get the leads in that amount of time, then it's really, I have to shut down the phone and go home. That's the end of the day. But if I got those leads early the next day, then I'd make the extra calls to catch up on what I was short the day before. Plus, it was a hot night. It was almost like you were thinking the fish are catching, the fish are biting. I got to have my line in the water. Let's go.
So getting the reps in. Yeah.
Just getting the reps
Okay,
in.
down in the morning, I got to pick them up in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's this is great stuff. We all fail. And I love the examples that you used up front. Particularly I'd forgotten about Harry Potter, that it never would have existed, as an entity if they said, "Hey, I tried, I gave it a shot." It's absolutely amazing. Although Edison, you're right. It's like, okay, at some point you got to say enough is enough. But thank God he didn't, or we would be sitting here in the dark right now.
So we'd be squinting a little bit more.
Exactly. Well, Paul, as always, thank you so much. I've got my copy of Get Squared. It's a great way. I start off every year with this and go back and revisit it. It ain't too late. So go ahead and pick up a copy of it if you don't already have one, folks. This is a great way to get your life in order and really put that first things first. So thank you so much for coming. We sure appreciate it.
Absolutely, always a pleasure. Hope that helps somebody out there. And if you need any help or want any questions answered, give me a holler.
You
Be
bet.
happy
Well,
to
and
talk to you.
we're so excited, Paul. Again, I just wanted to jump in really quick to say Paul has a lot more great content on 10 Minute Trainer Network. This is just one of many videos that he's created for us. So if you haven't checked out his channel, please go ahead and do so. I know that he's going to continue to be sending us great content throughout the year. So we'll, keep an eye out on your emails for those videos as they do drop on the network. But thank you again so much, Paul. It's always a pleasure to get to see you and get to hear from you.
Thanks, Jen.